Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends. Welcome back to Actors with Issues with me, your host, Juan Ayala, bringing you a quick and casual chat with a delightful actor from the small screen, the big screen, and the Broadway stage. Today's guest is a four-time Tony Award nominee you've seen across Broadway in Law & Order SVU, Hannibal, Dopesick, and here to talk with us about their latest role in Hulu's five-episode thriller, Candy. Please welcome Raúl Esparza. Raúl, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
So in Candy, you are back in the courtroom as an attorney, which we've seen you do so much in Law and Order. I'm curious, how did you approach this character differently, given that the role is based on a real life Don Crowder from this real life murder trial?
I actually hesitated at first because I was playing an attorney again, and then I thought, how is he different from Barba? And that was one of the first things I wanted to find with him. And he's actually incredibly different once you start to kind of work on it. I listened to recordings of Don. I watched footage of Don, whatever I could find, and I read about the case. And I found ways to look and feel as different as possible from what I had done before. Since it's based on a real event, there's a lot of things you can go off of. We're not entirely doing a factual version of this, but there was a lot of detail that I could pull from to create someone very different from anybody I'd played before. And that was, or at least I think so. That was the fun of it. You get yourself these sort of parameters that you can play in, and then that becomes the color palette you're playing with, and
Mm.
everybody becomes very different.
I did just finish watching all five episodes, and the show is one of those very just like a slow burn, keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. You're just like, what is going to happen next? And the fact that it's going to be sort of a daily release is brilliant. They just have everyone binge it in the first week. But I'm curious if there were any particular challenges that came with that sort of story structure of one long arc versus that of a procedural drama.
Well, it's pretty delicious actually to play one long arc because you can just sort of uh, drop into the story and know that something will pay off later. You don't have to solve all the problems in every scene. You can come in and know that whatever you're playing with in this moment will be just one more color that the character has in the long story. And the slow payoff too for Don Crowder is really fantastic, I think, because he sort of sneaks into the story, and you just kind of trust that he'll appear here, it'll appear here, and then little by little things start to get revealed, and you don't have to worry about finishing anything. You just sort of let it play out over time. And I personally, I love that. I think that kind of work is immersive and exciting to watch and interesting, and all the things you get to catch as you're sort of diving into this world. And partly too with Candy, one of the things that they wanted to do was convey the incredibly almost trapped experience that everybody was having in that town.
Mm.
Not that they would necessarily feel that way about themselves at the time, but just life is the same every day. It goes this way. This is how things happen. And then suddenly there's an axe murder. Wait, did I give my sampling? No.
Spoiler alert for those who don't know
Spoiler
about
alert,
the
there's an axe
case.
murder. Nobody dies in this.
And also, I'm curious if there if during your research of Don, if there are any other cases that you think would be sort of juicy enough for another limited series.
Huh. I hadn't thought about that. No, I didn't really dive into anything else. I get pretty mono-minded about what I'm working
Mm.
on. I listen to podcasts on this one. I listened to the book on tape for this one, and I read court transcripts, and so no, I definitely just lived in this world for a while. But that's a very good question. I actually think Don Crowder's story would make a good series.
There you go,
Yeah, I don't know
spinoff.
how people know about him, but he ended up running for the governor of Texas after he did this case. He was basically
Wow.
an insurance kind of attorney, what they would call an ambulance chaser, but I think the guy was actually a small genius. The case that he ended up trying went brilliantly for
Wow.
him, but it was out of left field, and he just kind of launched his life from there. But he had undiagnosed bipolar disorder and ended up in a pretty bad place in his life. So maybe we'll do that for a second season.
There's a story right
Blood
there.
and
Gosh.
blood and guts involved in that too, and ended up killing himself.
Wow.
Yeah, not happy.
You're part of a lot of dark stories. I'm realizing.
I like it. I'm drawn to it.
And given the name of our podcast being Actors with Issues, our guests have touched on different career obstacles and challenges like typecasting, dealing with stereotypes, mental health. The list goes on. And
Mhm.
is there anything that you have dealt with in your career that you can shed some light on that would help our audience of young actors and artists?
I always say that the biggest thing for any young actor is to figure out how to be entirely themselves, which is a hard thing to do when you're just starting out because everybody tells you you should be the next version of whatever they already know. And for myself, because my name is Raúl Esparza, I got a lot of, well, you don't look Cuban. You
Mm,
don't look Latin. You're not who we expect. Every time you come in the room, you should change your name. And I've said this over and over. Figuring out how to stay true to me and where I came from and what and who I was very challenging because I got a lot of pushback about what was essentially a stereotypical version of what it means to be Latin in America
mm,
that people that I was dealing with had no concept of. Um, and it was imperative to me that I not change my name and become someone else, and that I get to play all kinds of parts. And I think that that will be hopefully better in the future. And I think, however, that it is very hard to know who you are entirely and how to be entirely yourself when you're just starting out and you get that kind of pressure. But stick with it. There is no other you. Why bother? Why bother trying to give people what they want? Simply be who you are, and the rest will follow. We have enough versions of clones of successful actors out there. That's not interesting. That's not the way you build anything artistically. We all have stories to tell that are worth hearing. I think it's very easy to generalize about the Latin experience in this country, and
mm.
I think we have a long way to go actually on that one. But
Yeah.
that was definitely the biggest problem for me starting out. Just this sense that people felt that I was not who they expected when I walked in the room, and that's hard to hear all the time
Yeah.
because you
Can
can't do
imagine.
anything about yourself and who you are. And I think it's just apologizing eventually about, or you find yourself apologizing about what it means to be normal, average, and how you fit in. And if you can let go of that, we don't know anybody an explanation about about our lives. We just embrace everything in our heritage and who we are personally. It only leads to more interesting work in the long run.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Really, that as a Latino, as an artist myself, that really means a lot. And uh, having dealt with similar situations myself, being sort of light skinned and not stereotypically looking like Latino in this industry has been a challenge as well. So just hearing and seeing the improvements
Yeah,
that have happened along the way is,
yeah. It's definitely I've told this story many times, but it's definitely a very big deal to see what my name meant for my experiences, for instance, on Broadway, where the first time I saw my name over the title of a show or up on a marquee at a Broadway house. I saw my name, but I also saw my dad's, and my grandfather's, and my great grandfather's, because creatively we're all named Raul. Um, there was something huge about that, some
mm,
sense of, and I wasn't playing a Latin character, but there was some sense of like, yeah, the door is cracked open slightly, just slightly. Who knows where other people can go with this?
awesome. Before we wrap up, I just want to throw some rapid fire questions at you before we go. Fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be.
Teacher.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Nobody has power over you that you don't give them.
And what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
No, I can't think.
I'm sure there's a lot.
There's plenty of really bad advice. I honestly am blanking. Sorry about that.
What role have you had the most fun playing?
The most fun playing? Um, huh, good question. I guess I guess Chilton in Hannibal. That was a ball. Yeah.
Cool. He was just a guy.
He was trouble. That was a lot of fun to play. He was such a creepy, dark man.
Mm. And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
I think I already said it. Be yourself.
Mm.
Try to figure out who you are and just stick to that.
Awesome. Well, Raul, thank you so much for taking the time chatting with us today. If anyone wants to
Sure.
give you a follow on Instagram or social media, where can they find you?
I have no idea. It's Raúl Esparza. I know that. I should double check on
Find the
that.
one with the blue check mark.
Yeah, find the one with the blue check mark, the one this is verified.
Awesome. And you can all follow us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juaniala Official and check out our full video interviews at youtube.com/Actors with Issues podcast or listen on the go wherever you get your podcasts every Monday. And don't miss Raúl Esparza and Candy premiering on Hulu May 9th with new episodes all week long until the finale on May 13th. I'm Juaniala. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.